Hi everyone. Let me show you today what we can do when we combine OutSystems with AI to produce really cool use cases. Let's see this one. So welcome to the HSO Microsoft AI Tour application. This application was made in OutSystems integrating with Azure OpenAI, and it was mostly built to showcase the capabilities of embedding agentic processes and AI capabilities inside applications. So what does this application do? Yeah, it's very simple. So you first put a name of a company, you press enter, and now the magic starts happening. So in first step, what the what is happening under the hood is that we asked OpenAI to perform a web research over this company. So right now, the OpenAI model went to search on the internet what he could find over IKEA, and he will give as an outcome a set of instructions for this next step, but also some tags of what the company does. On this next step, the generating image, so what we do here is that we pick the outcome or the output of the research, and we ask also GPT to generate a toy set, in this case a bit like Playmobil, so to generate an image of a toy set representing that company. So this, yeah, it takes a bit more time. It's normally if you guys go to ChatGPT and you also ask him to generate an image, you will see. But after these two steps, we will get as a result, we will get the research and the generated image. And that's it. So you guys could see, in this case, he generated something more close to Lego set than Playmobil, but it's also okay. So we have here the IKEA results with the tags of the company. And if we want to check the result of this research that was used to has a prompt to generate an image, we can click here and we can see the outcome of the research. So we can see that he starts by telling what is IKEA and what should be the image or the toy set. Then he puts some components describing the image so that the image generator can know what to put. So you can see here restaurant and a cafe, sustainable energy features, delivery trucks and vehicles. And also he gives some instructions for the design and style of the image. We can see here a color palette and for example, in this case indicating that it should be Lego pieces, and then some other instructions for the image generation like perspective, lighting, and so on. So with these instructions, this was the outcome of the image that was generated. So yeah, it's pretty cool. We can try even with other companies. So if we want to go back, we can put any other company that might exist. And this is the general purpose of the application. We could also then print this into a card to offer the customers that would came to us in the booth. So yeah, let's see what really happens under the hood and how we did implement this using OutSystems. So I want to start first with a huge disclaimer that yes, this seems quite chaotic in terms of screens and UI. And the reason for it is, yeah, because it is chaotic. As you could see in the application, there is a lot of UI elements. There is a lot of customizable classes, images, animations. and including also transitions between the different steps. And all of this had to be customized in this application. So you can see first that we have, as it is expected, we have a huge CSS style sheet, and it's normal because it has all the different animations, all the different styles of all the elements. Most of the elements that exist here on the page, they have a typical position absolute or position fixed. So that was also a challenge because, as you guys can see here, everything is in the middle of the screen. So there is no scroll, everything is presented in the center of the screen. So basically the way I found that it was more simple to handle this chaos was if we created different blocks for the different steps that we see on the top. So the research, the first step, the research and the generation, and then the result. So you guys can see here. And then inside of each step, we have the necessary elements to perform the animations and also the tasks necessary in that part. So in general, we have these, we have the blocks, then we have the screen, and inside of the screen, we use here a pattern of whenever we start generating whenever we start the process of generating, what we do is that we create a generation record here that has the company name. It says here the current step that he's in. It puts the research results, the tag list, the image, and also for logging purposes, the start date time and an error message in case of failing. So this is the only table, so to say. We also have here the steps as a static, and we have a generational log more to control. But the most important thing here is that, as you guys can see, in the home page, I do fetch the generation by ID, and this by ID, it's a variable here, and it's normal that it doesn't have any input because whenever we open the application, it doesn't navigate to an existing generation process. He always starts a new one. So the moment that we start generating, what we do is we call a server process, and we'll go on that part later, but we call a server action to start the process, and then we use this pattern of using timeouts to every second refresh. So check the status on the database, and if there are changes in the results, we update the correct process ID, and then depending on the result, we might activate again the next timeout, or we might kill the process if it already achieved the end result. And you guys might see here also that we use this current process step ID to control which blocks should appear. So this is mostly the UI part. And yes, I must admit that 80% of the effort of this application, or even 85%, was in the UI part, doing all the animations, doing all the different styles. This was designed by a UI UX in the company. And this was really a challenge to make all this with the look and feel that you guys saw. But the most important here is the part of the agent, because what we did it was basically we created, in this case, a toy set agent. So we basically used an agent to do this step-by-step process and then to retrieve the results. And how do we do this? If you see an action, it will be a very simple action, because in reality it's basically doing two things sequentially. So there isn't any reasoning needs or any else ifs and multiple paths. There is just one sequential path. So first he performs the research, and then when he finishes performing the research, he generates the image. And inside here, you can see that I'm calling one time the OpenAI agent, and I ask him to generate, to perform a research of the company and to generate a response to be used as a prompt in the image generation. And he replies with that. We have here three tries, three retry mechanism in case something is wrong or if it gives timeouts. And on the third time, it simply updates the process and stops it. And then we also do the same thing for the tags. So we ask him to generate a list of comma-separated tags for us to put it. And after that, we update the status. We put there the message, we update the status, and then we go to the second step. And the second step, we call again the generate toy company. Oh, let me go back just real quickly to show another thing, is that as you might see here, I'm giving instructions to the model, to the ChatGPT, the Azure ChatGPT model, to use the web search preview tool. So this is the tool that allows the model to do web scraping. So to go to web pages, perform searches, and retrieve the information. So I had to use this for him to be able to research on the web. And then we do the second step, or in this case, the third step, that is to generate the image. And in this case, what we do is that we use a different model. So this was the model that OpenAI released to allow the images to use this next generation of image generation, saying it again. But if you guys notice, like since the beginning, I would say like March or April, there was this boom of people generating toy sets of their images and starting to have really good cartoon generated. So this is when ChatGPT released the new image generation model. But at the time, they did not release in APIs. They only released in the ChatGPT platform. But some weeks before we start doing this application, they released also for APIs. So it was possible for us to start using the APIs. And so you see here that we gave him instructions to generate, and we say the company name, and we give the research result. So with this, he generates the image, and then we do it. We save, we update the status, and that's it. It's a pretty simple process, sequential two-step agentic process. So interesting things here to consider. First, I was really curious to see how would be the best process or the best way to do this process, because in reality we have three ways of doing this. Or we can do with timers, for example, and this would be the more close, for example, with O11. So we have here the timer, and in this case, the current version that we have is using the timers, and I will tell you why. But we can use a timer, and in this case, the timer does things in sequence. The other way is for us to trigger an event. In this case, this event it's not connected right now to an action, but it would be really similar to the timer. We would call the event to do this, or we could do, for example, as I had before, but I do believe that I removed it to make space for the timer, is that you could do each of these steps in different events and make one event call another. The advantage of this is that you would distribute the timeouts on the two events. The disadvantage of this is that it would cost you one AO, one more AO. With the timer, and the reason why we implemented the timer is that with the timer the timeouts are bigger. And why is this important? Right now, the API that we call to generate the image already allows to do this in an asynchronous process. But at the time when we developed this, it was only available to call it in a synchronous way. So we would have to call and wait for the response. Nowadays, there is an attribute where we can specify that we want this to be async. So it means that when we call, we receive an ID of that process, and then we have another API to, from time to time, ask again or ask how is the status of the generation and then retrieving. So it would be more suitable for this situation to use that API, but at the time was not available. And the reason for that is because this way we can control the timeouts on our side, ensuring that there aren't any timeouts. In this case, what I had to do was I had to increase the timeout of this API to more than 3 minutes, because from now and then it could happen that the image generation would take more than 1 minute, like between 1 and 2 minutes. So I had to increase the timeout, and the reason why the timer was the chosen solution was because the timer also has a bigger timeout compared to the events. So this was the outcome. The third way that this could also have been done, and I also tried that to see mainly the timeout situation, is using a workflow in ODC. The problem here with the workflows is that they do have the same timeout of the generate image, because basically they are also calling, for example, a service action, and then inside of the service action they have logic. So this means that the timeout of the different steps of the workflow is the same timeout of the service actions. And so in this case, what happened is, from time to time, if the generation of the image would take a bit more time, we would receive a timeout from both the events or the workflows. So this was the reason why we choose to use timers. And that's it. This was the way we generated we created the process. It was a very interesting project, and even the part of UI, it was again really challenging. So the question that you guys might be wondering is, why OutSystems in this case, right? Because if you guys see, this is Microsoft AI Tour. So this was an event of Microsoft, and we used this to try to show to customers what it was possible to do using AI. And this was done by the company that I'm currently in, so HSO. And the reason for that is because, yes, it would have been possible to also use, for example, Power Platform has the Microsoft low code tool to do something like this. The only situation is that we really wanted this in terms of marketing to be really cool. So to have a really good visuals, a really good UI UX with animations, so that it could really capture the attention of our clients. And in this situation, we came to the conclusion that OutSystems would be a more suited tool to have this type of application. It would also have been possible to do it using low code Power Platform, or for example high code, but with the time that we had available to do it, OutSystems was the more suited tool to use this. First, because it's also quite simple to introduce agentic processes in the middle of the logic, but most important, because OutSystems has a better flexibility and better customization power for this type of UI UX behaviors. And so this was the reason why OutSystems was chosen. So I hope you guys liked this video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about this application. Also, if you have questions of how I did some parts, let me know. Okay, good to see you. Have a nice day.